Now I'd like to turn the program over to Dr. Christine Hopkins. She is a research assistant professor in the Department of Sociology and the Population Research Center. Her work is focused on reproductive health. I'm also pleased that she's a faculty affiliate of the Center for Women's and Midwifery Studies. Dr. Hopkins.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I had the good fortune to meet Senator Putte at a fundraising event for her run for Lieutenant Governor of this great state of Texas. How about a round of applause for that? When I told the senator that I was going to introduce her at this event, she had only one request, that I keep it short. So here we go. In that spirit, I'm going to share with you just 3 things about Senator Leticia Putte. First, she comes from a long line of really smart women who care about fostering opportunities for other women. For instance, she told me that her 82-year-old mother's analysis of the law passed last summer that puts more restrictions on abortion care as this: it's not about reproductive health, it's about controlling women's bodies, because then they can control your career and your opportunities. It's no surprise then that a generation before that, her mother's mother, Senator's grandmother, used to board city buses in San Antonio to distribute information about contraception. And she did this in love so that women could have the means to control their own destinies. Second, I can think of no better person to speak to a group whose goal it is to address the underrepresentation of women in American politics than the senator. Not only has she served in her community for many years as a pharmacist and public servant, she has also challenged expectations about what's the appropriate role for women politicians in her role as chair of the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs and Military Installations. And she has tirelessly advocated for veterans, service members, and their families for many years. And who can forget last summer when, on the floor of the Texas Senate, she famously said, "At what point must a female senator raise her hand or her voice to be recognized over her male colleagues?" And finally, the last thing I want to say about Senator Leticia Putte is that she's badass.
Is that these? Yeah, because I've always wanted to be kind of like an Oprah. So I'm going to put this right here, and I want to say thank you. First of all, Dr. Ross, thank you for that nice and short introduction. And my goodness, y'all look really good. You look absolutely fabulous. And I am just very excited to see this many young women participate. I wish that we had had programs like this when I was on this campus. But when I was on this glorious campus at UT, I was still using a slide rule. You don't even know what that is. I know. You can find them in museums, but I'm also thankful here today to be joined by a longtime friend and someone whose life and her public service, and she does have a life of public service, is in service to other women and fostering that leadership, and that is my dear friend Lulu Flores. Lulu, thank you for all of you for leading on me and the newest generation of our leaders. I'm also joined today by a bright young woman who is actually my children's age. Where's Mary? Mary Hinojosa. There's Mary. Mary has joined us today, and she is embarked on an absolutely fabulous undertaking and a difficult one. She travels with me everywhere. And so if you see her drinking an enormous amount of caffeine, it's because she will be driving to Houston tonight after we leave. But I do appreciate everything that she does to keep us on track. And I'm just so thankful to be here. What I know about the program is something that was done kind of informally. We know that when women learn about other women, or women help women. That it enriches not only our lives, our careers, our communities, but it enriches the entire country. It enriches the next generation. And maybe you heard some of the introduction of what they did to me is that I am a totally odd person when it comes to history. Because you would think that a little girl who was born on San Antonio's west side, as Leticia goes on Banana Sanita, and then married this cute trombone player named Pete Vanderpute, had 6 children in 9 years, opened her own pharmacies and medical clinics, and then in 1990 was encouraged to put her name in for state representative when I never held any elected office. She would think that's an odd person. Not really. You see, it was other women who encouraged me. We knew even back then that there had to be this strong network of friends who supported each other. For me, that group was the Mexican-American business and professional women in San Antonio. And we were teachers and accountants and physicians and dentists and social workers. But we had one thing in common. We had different careers, but what we all had was nuestra herencia. We had the same sort of culture. And I was really lucky, blessed in fact, because my growing up in San Antonio was a very loving environment. While we know that research shows that that first generation of a family to get to go to a college campus changes the dynamics forever and expectations. My mother went to college, and then she got married. And then it took her another 16 years and 5 pregnancies to get her degree, her teaching degree. My mom's a college graduate. So when I was growing up, there was never a question of, do you think if you could go? The expectation was there. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? But when that 1990, when that first opportunity came, what I didn't know, yet all of my friends knew, was that I had been building political capital basically for the last 15 years in my community. Now, when you look at the role of women, we've always been leaders in our communities. Who organizes the bake sales? Who organizes the PTA carnivals? Who gets things done in your faith-based communities? And even in politics, who does the fundraisers? Who does the mail-outs? Who organizes? Yes. But we were reluctant to put our names forward. In fact, in the history of Texas, I'm the 10th woman ever to serve in the Texas Senate. Think about that. It's the 10th woman ever. And the reason that I was able to put my name forward was because of odd circumstances. So I say I'm an odd person with an odd circumstances, but maybe not so. In 1990, there was a vacancy for the state legislature. At Lulu knew the person in the seat was a gentleman by the name of Orlando Garcia, and he had decided to run for the 4th Court of Appeals, leaving a vacancy. And at that time, all of the precinct chairs would decide because it happened after the primary. Number 1, ladies, rule number 1, know your rules, know the process. How do you be effective in whatever career or wherever you go? Know the rules of the dynamic that you're in. The rules were that the precinct chairs got to decide. I was precinct chair. I was a good precinct chair, right? Helping candidates with coffees in my home. I was the one that was organizing the little coffees and backyard things, supporting really good candidates. Why? Because I live in the neighborhood I grew up. I live a block and a half from where I grew up. So when people say, oh, she doesn't forget where she came from, I never laughed. I really didn't. But when that vacancy came up, and there were 5 men, and they were all good men, and I visited with all of them, because they wanted my vote to be selected for that ballot space. And my husband was the one that asked me to stay here, so I was who you can go with. And I said, hey, I visited with all of them, and they're good men, but I just don't get that feeling. He said, wait, that feeling, that gut feeling that you get, yeah, this is the one. This is the one that I want to be my state representative. And I said, and they're not talking about the things that I think are really important. Like, the research was just showing the power of early childhood education. Those neural pathways are firing. You can absorb so much at age 3 and 4 that when you're 17, you think you know it all. Believe me, I've had 6 of those teenagers when I was 17. I got really dumb, apparently, when all of them turned 17 at some point. They were talking about small business. They weren't talking about preventative health care. And so I told him, I just don't get it. He says, you know, you want to put your name in, I bet you'd make a good state rep. And I said, you know, I think I would, but I can't win. He says, oh no, baby, you can't win. You can't win. But maybe if you put your name in, you can be part of the forum and you can voice your concerns. Now, I've been to the Texas Capitol before because I was the leader in my pharmacy association. So just like we had this group of women with Mexican American business and professional women, what I learned very early on is you just can't be a leader in a women's organization. Whatever career or pathway you have, you need to be known as a leader in that organization as well. And I did. I served as president of my very own pharmaceutical association. I was on the board of the Texas Pharmacy Association. My goal was to one day be president. But I put my name in, and it was in that discussion with our family. You know, those 6 kids that were all under the age of 10. What would it mean if mommy would trek from San Antonio to Austin during the legislative session and be away? And our youngest asked, well, why does mommy want to be a state representative? And it was my 10-year-old daughter that said, because there's not enough mommies here. And Pete and I knew that I had to do this. There were very few women in 1990 in the Texas House. Probably maybe a little more than a dozen or so. Out of 150, there was one woman in the 31-member Senate. I had to do it for my daughters. And so I did. I won. To all of us are trying to very good. And I have loved the public policy ever since 1999 came to the Senate. But what has happened is along the way, you build those networks. Now, many folks ask, what makes women successful in politics or in leadership roles? It's the same thing that makes anybody successful. Number one, you gotta like what you're doing. I mean, so many young people, as many people say, I want to be a state representative, I want to be a state senator. I said, do you like people? Do you love the community that you live in? Do you have a passion about something else besides being elected? I mean, is it the environment? Is it literacy? Is it boll weevil eradication? I mean, what is it that drives you? So find something that you're really passionate about, and it can be anything, and get involved in that not-for-profit. If it's something in your group and you build those networks, but you build your leadership skills. Because it's about getting people to work together toward a common goal. And you can build that all the way. Now, some have said that my success in the legislature has been because I'm an expert at adolescent mediation. Well, that was the kids. But it's not. It's about having the conversation. It's about knowing what moves people, how to get them to yes. The success in the legislature that I've had and in leadership roles has not been because I'm the smartest. I wish I was. But I can tell you I care the most. And people know that. What I have found with my constituents and with the people that I work with, my pharmacy patients, they expect me to know the clinical knowledge. I went to this great university. I'm a pharmacist and have been for 34 years. I should know my stuff by now, right? They expect me to know what I need to know. They want to know how to take care. And for the people that I represent, they expect me to know what's going on in Washington. When it's zoning or electric grid or banking or retirement systems or education, they expect me to know something about it. Right? But they want to know, well, I fight for them. So the key to leadership, the key to finding your passion is, number one, you better like people. And you better be able to have them join you in a common goal. Whether that is being in leadership in a not-for-profit, or in your community neighborhood association, or on your library board, and city council, county commissioner, and the corporate boardroom. It's about that relationship and the conversation. And so I'm here today as an almost 60-year-old pharmacist, mother of 6, grandmother of 6 nearly perfect grandchildren, on the verge of a statewide contest that some would say is near impossible. Nobody has questioned my capability. Nobody has questioned my qualifications. Nobody's questioned even my toughness. Nobody's questioned my ability to get along across the aisle. The only thing they question is, can she get elected? Because we haven't had any women since Ann Richards. We haven't had any women in a long time. Kay Bailey, great example of a wonderful, wonderful public servant and leader. Kay Bailey Hutchinson, one of the people that I turn to, because she set that example. Ann Richards, Barbara Jordan, Eva Raquel, state representative who taught me so much. So I look to them and learn. You are in a marvelous position. And yet you're in a very troubling spot. The world is very complicated. And every day we see movement to take away the forward progress that we have made. I'm not telling you how many women I can woman every day that says, oh my goodness, I thought we settled this 4 years ago. Equal pay. Trusting women for the decisions that they make. Talking about hair on a campaign trail. I love what Ann Richards said. She says, usually the people who were focused on my hair were men who didn't have any. You are at a unique point. Relish in the friendships that you're going to make this next week. This will be your network. Relish in the opportunities that you have to strengthen each other. The lifelong friends that you will make in your workplace, in your neighborhoods, and your families. That's your network, that's your strength. And when you're really troubled, go for that inner core. The thing that makes you absolutely on fire about some issue. And then put it all to good use. But know that it can't be about you, just like this isn't about Leticia baby. I'm running because this is about my babies. I want a Texas where the opportunities are there for my grandchildren. I don't want to go backwards. And that's why I fight so hard. So thank you for having me. I want to leave plenty of opportunity for questions.